Right, the last point of the show, and I've actually tailored this specifically for you, Vale. It's actually a question a bit about your career, but I thought you could relate in a very unique way to this situation. So one of the storylines coming into this major, anyone who followed CS will know this, is, well, think about it, right? Vitality is the number one team. Everyone expects them to win the major. I've already said that, right? So if you think about people like Ziwu, I can tell you if he wins the major, a lot of fans and analysts will say that makes him the greatest of all time. You know, that's the final thing. And if people don't know, I can tell you that wasn't how we thought about things in CS 1.6. In CS 1.6, how great you were as a player was more like sports. It's just your general body of work. Like, how did you play in every match? Like, I'll give you the obvious example. If I said to someone, like, obviously present company included, that the best AWPer in 1.6 was Kogu, the Brazilian, no fan would go, but he only won the one major. They'd go, oh, let's debate it. Like, yeah, he was really good, but Valley was good, and Fraud was good, and Marklov was good. And you'd have a real debate about how they played, right? So first of all, I think Z was an example already, because he won his, like, easy major, people think, of the Blast one. But the biggest one that everyone always brings up is obviously Nico, right? If people don't know, obviously Nico's never won the major. If you don't know, Valley never won the major. He had a lot himself in second places and times where he thought it was going to happen. So I wanted to ask you, because I thought you could uniquely speak to this. I put it as ugly, because on the one hand, Valley, on some level, if we're deciding the absolute best, yeah, winning the major can be important. It's the biggest tournament, right? But I also think it's ugly that I do feel like Nico's a great example. I feel like people do judge players very harshly if they don't win the major. Like, I often tell people, mate, there's a lot of players who won the major. I think Nico's way better than and had a much better career than, even if, yes, he never got to lift that trophy up. So as someone who was in that position, this is obviously something people put to you when you'd had your career. What do you think about this pressure that you have to win the major? What do you think?
I don't think that it's gonna impact a career like Nico's. I totally get your point, and you are very right about the fact that I was also in that spot many times where I had the trophy within grasp, but then managed to lose the final in maybe to an underdog team. Sometimes where we were the favorites, and I think that mostly it affected myself.
Oh, okay.
And the way that I view my own career and how I value it, it kind of becomes that thing that eludes you. But I know that, you know, among peers and among community, it didn't really impact my legacy or what people thought of me. And I think that the same goes for Nico and some other players like him too, that no matter if you win the major or not, he's still accomplished so much. And I do believe that it's not going to come down to that one trophy in your cabinet, whether you are in the discussion for one of the greatest of all time. I think that for me, that's a mixture of many different things. If you're in that category, it's not only about the major trophy or the MVPs. There's a lot to it. Like you said, how they played during their whole career is something that's gonna impact what I would think about how I view a player. So I wouldn't, to be honest, I wouldn't now in hindsight rank the major as deciding for his career, and not for mine either. There are always gonna be, if you have a career long enough, hopefully you're gonna get the trophies that you need. And he has plenty of chances left, right? I think that for myself, I wasted a few years. I could have had more chances, to be honest, on my trophies. And I hope that, and I think that Nico or someone similar to him is gonna take his chances better than I did, for sure.
What has unfortunately happened in almost all major sports discourses is that there's a lot of people now that push numbers before they push their own eye tests.
Yeah.
And you'd actually think that as AI takes a greater hold on society, that people would try to develop the skill sets that differentiate themselves from a machine.
Sure.
But people with pretty much like zero backbone, no memorable takes, and just want to just always be objectively correct, they see trophies as the most quantifiable expression of winningness. And so then they boil down a person's achievements to their trophies, but then they immediately short circuit when you ask them, oh, was Dupree then the GOAT? They can't actually fathom that their simple metric that they use to try to express ZywOo greater than simple cannot then be further brought to,
Yes.
well, 5 greater than 2, right?
Yes.
It's just such a moot point by people who haven't actually laid out their rubric of what makes somebody great. And greatness can have a subjective rubric. It's okay. But if you don't actually ever push that forward in a discussion, then I have very little reason to pay attention to anything that you're saying, because if you are a lot of people in this space actually do this. They have very conflicting they have, because they haven't laid these principles out for themselves.
Yes.
They actually then end up conflicting with themselves. They end up being contradictory, and unfortunately, I've noticed that fans I feel like actually fans have done a weirdly decent job at this before with me, where I try to like write things down. I try to lay out my ideas. I try to like make sure I kind of know what my stance is on something, to a point where I don't contradict myself. But I think that sometimes people in this space actually lose credibility because they contradict themselves. And I don't even think that they necessarily know that they've contradicted themselves all the time. So I think it's something that everybody should be a lot more conscious of, or else they run the risk of just losing faith from the fans, because what they said 3 weeks ago is different than what they're saying this week, as they haven't outlined this criteria. That's why, that's my rant on this.
I think that one thing that I would bring to the table when talking about those type of players, because there are plenty of examples too from the old days, is how much has the player done for the game in terms of impact and in terms of inspiration, and just bringing more excitement to the game. That's a variable for me that,
Sure.
In this type of conversation, when it comes to like the Brazilian opera Kogu, he brought a lot to the game that wasn't seen
For sure.
in the trophies too. And he brought fair to his opponents, tier 1 teams.
Yeah.
This stuff like this.
You could also argue, by the way, that people like the Fallens of the world might not exist without Kogu. Part of their career tags onto his, yeah.
For sure. And that's also why I think it's hard to ignore someone like Simple, when you can see what type of impact he has on the ecosystem, on the supporters, on the viewership. That's the type of impact that's hard to quantify, and to measure as well, where for me, that would be one big part of why someone has brought a lot to the game, or actually has earned their place in the esports, history books. That's also how much they impacted outside of the trophies too, for other people, and I think someone like Simple is a very good example of that. And we have some old school players too who never got the trophies but had a huge impact. And then on the other hand, we have the opposite too. Heaton is a friend of mine. He had a huge impact, but his career was pretty short, to be honest.
Yeah,
His
true.
like peak career. I had a longer career than him. So it's for me, it's more of a combination of things that you can't really count only the trophies and MVPs, and that's also why, as per your point, Thorin, I think that Nico should not be worried about having the major be deciding for his career. I think he accomplished everything and more that could be asked. And everyone, this also proves the impact of outside of trophies, that everyone wants him to win it.
Yeah, of course.
That's the type of impact that a great player in a game is going to have on the fan base, on the supporters, on the talents, and all of this. All of us wants to win it for Nico, you know. I felt myself like cheering for Nico,
Right.
Just because I want it so badly for him, you know. And he, you know, does he need it? I don't know.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.